Hello everyone. So first thing, I managed to level up last night. So just wanted you to see that. That's my potions. Okay, I did all of the first tasks and completed. I got the baubles by collecting a Bublio and sent 5 gifts. So I need to unlock 4 port keys. I have my port key ready to go. This port key unlocked before I got to that task. Good morning, staff. How are you? So that's the plan for today. I may go up near the one area I haven't mapped. Okay, let's see. Good. I'm glad you're good. I just want to double check then. Okay, we're good. I know you said server side, but sometimes they also come with a push. So yep, they changed the time period. That works. I'll look at it in a little while. Yeah, I saw. I just wanted to double check since I was at a place I could, if that makes sense, before I got away from the place that's easy to check. Ah, come on. I'm right on top of it almost. I hate when it does that. Hey, you're on top of it. Now I won't give it to you. It's like, really? You can tell I've been coming here more. Now I'm too far away. Oh well. I only spun it 3 times while I was 2 or 3 times right on top of it. But it's even, well, so what's frustrating to me is you can be literally right on top of it, but it won't accept it. And then at other times, you can be a long ways away and it accepts it. It's like, excuse me? Oh well. So I think what we're going to do today is head up to the unmapped area of Logan just to look around. Not USU, but the other area. Because there's not going to be that much up there. And I obviously need my 4 kilometers to... Well, if you're not going to go, I'm going to go. My 4 kilometers to be able to move on. So, I can stay till the normal time today. Yesterday I couldn't because, like I said, I had somewhere I had to be at about 9. But today I don't need to be home till about 9:30 to 10. So I was hoping that was a doxy. Yesterday, they were all doxies. It looks like today, most or all of them are going to be leprechauns. They seem to switch back and forth here in the valley. I'll come up here and see what you said in just a minute. Let's see. Yeah, it's still green, so it'll be green for a little while so I can stop and look. Cool. What my problem is how long the toadstools are, but I bet I can plant toadstools in a couple places right now. That's probably the best idea. I'm gonna go to Willow Park first and plant toadstools a couple of places. That way tomorrow, and I'm gonna wait till a little bit later, so if I'm a little bit later getting my son out, I can still harvest them, because honestly, that's my issue. Here, when I get a chance. 49 powdered dragon claw, 1 toadstool. So, obviously, you can tell where my bottleneck on potions is. Right now, I've got plenty of unicorn hair, plenty of everything else after that last event. I'm literally just missing toadstools galore. So I'm skipping these on this road because they would be hard to gather from. I just know because the road's a busy road, so if it's one of the ones where the toadstools decide to pop up on the other side, there would be no way to get over to it because of how busy the road is. Or it would be, but very difficult. So, actually, if I planned it now, that still gives me a 30-minute leeway. Yeah, I'm just going to go plant you can't tell, my energy has picked back up. So I was completely right in my figuring of exactly what was going on. Now let's go mark it so that I remember. Actually, yeah, I need right here. Okay. If I waited for it to warm up, you know I'd be waiting forever. Besides, I kind of like the cold, so... Now I'll go collect a little bit more energy so that I can have enough to max out 2 more. Because I can, 2 or 3, actually, yeah, I have a few more I can hit. So, let's see, that one will give me 10, or 9, which means I'll have 10, so there'll be 5 of my dragon. Yeah, I need to max them all out. And I also need to get my potions so that they're, or get my port keys popped so that I can get my potions. So that, let's see what this one is. Honestly, I haven't got very good gifts either. And on top of that, from the Barufias, I get powdered dragon's claw. I know they're supposed to share the leaping toadstools, but I'm actually ending up with more powdered dragon's claw from Barufias than I am leaping toadstools. So it just puts me in an even worse position along those lines. Which is kind of funny, because it's like, I'm after this stuff, or I want the Barufias, so I get the leaping toadstools. And when I get 3 to 5 powdered dragon's claw for every 2 leaping toadstool, it doesn't add up very well. So I just kind of laugh at it and go, okay. Personally, I would say probably energy or rune stones are the best gifts to send me, because I rarely can send in can open ingredient gifts right now because, well, you can see why. Grow. Leaping toadstool, yes. Contribute. Pull it up. Yes. Okay. Now mark that one. This one. I don't even get them every third time. That's the problem. I get them about every fifth time or so, I think. And it's like, well, that's not... Oh, and all the other times I'm getting the dragon's claw. So then it becomes a, well, we're just... And I don't want to throw away the dragon's claw. So then I'm still headed down the wrong road. For that, so... Same here. The minute I toss something, that's what I'm gonna need. Uh-oh, I need more water to plant. Is there any water around here? Yes. Since I need more water too, I won't hit the last greenhouse I could around here. The one I could care less about right now is the trace. I could not get things from trace worth a darn, so now let's go closer. My son was using my phone last to play. That would be nice. We were just talking about that earlier today in our Discord group. Because one guy has like 40-something unicorn hair. And we have another person in our group that needs unicorn hair. don't really care how many, so much as every time I drop it, it brings in normal things. I rarely get anything that I can't get anyway. So it's like, I mean, I guess if you were in a rush to get things, but like, you've seen how many I get around my house and different areas. Even during community day, there were enough things, there was no need to drop a dottle drought. Or not a dottle drought, drop a trace. And so for me, and maybe it's just because of the areas I'm able to access, but there's no use dropping it because I have so much I can get anyway that getting another 5 or 10 of the very same thing does me no good. 30 minutes getting 5 or 10 of the very same thing doesn't help me at all. Now, if it were to bring in higher level things, which supposedly it's supposed to, that would be great. But it hasn't been. And that's where my issue is on using it, because it's like, I have no need for more of the same. If I were just starting, maybe, well, not maybe, then I would, because I wouldn't have as much that I have already completed. But when your registries are almost full, and that's all you're going after, then what use is the same stuff you have? If that makes sense. And I've tried dropping dottle drought at various times, etc. It's honestly, in my case, it's completely broken for me. Now, I'm not saying that it's broken for everyone. It just, for me, isn't of use right now. So, other than to get it out of my potions, that's one reason I would use it, is just it's sitting there. I have enough, but yeah. I get that, but so I had, at the start of the event of Community Day, I had 30-something keys. Potions that I've seen are usually ones I could care less about. And then, and yeah, the gold's nice, but the other thing we've realized is that when you hit the 65 star, you're more likely to get level 4 and 5 rune stones. And so I try and save try and not hit that so fast. Yeah, I know technically I'm gonna end up with the same rune stones in the end. But it's nice having some ways to get the lower level rune stones. And I kind of just want to wait. So, like these 3, I'll go after all of them because I've already maxed out. I agree there. And that's part of it. I'm not rushing. I've already maxed out these 3. They're all at 65 plus, or the ones that are right here, they're all at 65 plus. So I'll go after all of them. But I don't go after the ones that I haven't already maxed out, if that makes sense. Other than, obviously, I usually go after all of these. I forgot, I still need to get a good picture of them. Good screenshot of that one. Anyway, but part of the reason I didn't, as we were going around Willow Park, is I was trying to get my energy up and keep it, and that's part of what I'm doing right now, is trying to get my energy back up. Just so that I'm good to go when I go fight in the fortress. So I'm trying to be aware where my energy's at too, if that makes sense. Since I used so much energy to max out those 3 greenhouses. Because if I can get my energy up without relying on energy gifts, that would be a good thing. And where I need to get some distance in, that's part of it. Looks like they've made Hagrid and Madame Maxine easier to catch. So did you watch any of my stream yesterday? or more steady pace. Whatever. Jen's reached level 40. I didn't know if you caught it after, so. What were you at the hospital for? Follow-ups? Oh, that's sad. I hope she ends up okay. Do they know how it got that bad? I was just curious because so my car is like a magnet for getting hit. But it's also a magnet for police vehicles. I got pulled over yesterday, and I swear that part of the reason he gave me the warning is because he couldn't enforce. He realized that he was in the wrong. He couldn't admit it, but he realized he was in the wrong. If that makes sense. So do they have an idea of how it made it to a bad enough infection that she had to be hospitalized? Because I know usually those are preceded by kidney or by bladder infections, and can be caught early or caught before they get to that point. I'm not saying that's for sure what happened here. I'm just curious if. Oh, okay. That's sad. Yeah, well, if you're resistant, it's going to make it harder to bring it under control. I can totally get that. So I'm guessing they're trying to come up with a plan for the future, also to try and make sure she doesn't end up at that point. I hate when doctors do that. That's one thing I do love about my doctor. our primary care, he'll be like, okay, so here's what you're here for, but how's this going and how's that going and whatever else, just to make sure that we aren't missing something that because of the EDS or things that could make it, that could turn bad, if that makes sense. So I love that about my doctor. Wait, I already got that. I was after this. Okay. And it's sad for her because if they had been on the ball, the worse the infection, the harder it is to that's sad. Hey, look, it's Hagrid, and I actually need him for once. You know how I bet you understand how that feels. It's like, oh, wait, now we actually need him. So I pulled over because I thought, and turned off the car because I thought it was going to take a little while. You know, red flame. But I guess I didn't need to. Okay. It's too bad there's not somewhere else she can go for care. That's one thing I like about here. Like here. Is there are a number of different options. It just happens that my care provider is the cheapest in the valley, on top of being amazing. So I know, that was huge. I hope they continue doing stuff like that for some of the community days. Because, I mean, so in my mind, okay, yeah. I hit 65 star on that page during that day. But I also maxed out the page on that day. Like, I got that page to silver. And so I had no issue hitting 65 plus because I was at silver on that page. And so that's my take on it. Was if they do it that way, I have no problem hitting 65 plus. I think she's off on that one. Yes, they behaved themselves. Yes, it may have been a missed opportunity. But at the same time, they understood that how significant, one, the Yule Ball was. Two, they understood they were with people they wanted to be with. And they were not going to embarrass their girlfriends. And that, I think, even more showed that they were real people, not just jokesters. Even the class clowns have people they want to impress. And I think it more gave them depth of character. That there were times they got serious. There were times they behaved. It made it not so unusual that they would have the joke shop, but then join, as soon as they could, join Dumbledore's, or join the Order of the Phoenix. And that they would hand over the proof already of that was when they gave Harry the map. Yeah, okay, they know all these spots by memory, but it actually did hinder their ability to do certain things that they would have done otherwise, because they no longer could tell for sure where Filch and the different teachers and whatever were. But they weren't just jokesters. They were after they understood the need to have fun and how much of a difference that made, while registering while being real people and registering the seriousness of certain situations. And I think that really allowed them to shine in many ways in the books and in the movies. Had they just been jokesters, I don't think they would have been loved as much by everyone. But because they were more than jokesters. That the joking quality was specifically itself on now. That's why they were loved, was that their characters had been fleshed out enough that they could be loved. I mean, yeah, okay, they told Peeves to give give Umbridge heck. And Peeves actually took an order from them. And I suspect many other times had taken orders from them. Honestly, I would not be surprised if part of the reason they were never caught doing anything, even after they gave up the map, is because they had Peeves on their side. Because they understood Peeves. And I think that's a big portion of it, of why Peeves did what he did. Got it. Is because they understood Peeves. And that was part of it. If you really think of Fred and George, and I'm just going to throw this out, and it takes a different look at Peeves. So we've been told Peeves is pure mischief. But I wonder how much of that pure mischief, if you think about it, Peeves also understood that there were people who deserved to be treated certain ways. If you really think about how Peeves treated Harry, he, down the road, okay, first year, he treated Harry like crap. He treated all first years like crap. But as you go on, there's certain times Peeves registers that, okay, don't give away Harry. It's literally not for the best. It's Harry seriously trying to help. Because just, there's certain things like that were times when he could have given away Harry, I'm pretty sure, but he didn't. And I think there's some significance in that. The fact that when he could have given away Harry, because I suspect Peeves was even more aware of where he could tell where everyone was. He didn't need Mrs. Filch guiding him to where students were out of bed. He didn't need another set of eyes or anything. He was magical in and of himself. So I suspect, in a way, he was his own Maraudersman. And so, how many times did he not give away Harry? Because he understood that Harry was helping out and was just trying to benefit the world. And so I can see that if she was just admitted yesterday, I would bet it'll be a little bit. They want to make sure they get it under control before they release her. Not that they're releasing her and then she has to come back because it wasn't fully under control. So yeah, I can see I can totally see that. So the IV antibiotics are really hard to send them home on. And they need to get everything under control enough so they can send her home on oral. So I totally see that. And at least they're taking that step rather than trying to rush her out too early after they messed up in the first place. So I'm driving around in here trying not to get lost, but trying to see what else may be hidden up in here is what I'm doing. And working on at the same time. By doing that, I can walk my port keys more. But, so what I was saying about the twins, about Peeves, is I really believe he had the magical ability to know where everyone, basically in some ways, I believe he was his own Marauder's map. And that may have been where the Marauders got the idea for the map and how to make it is kind of from watching Peeves, because you never hear about them having problems with Peeves. And we all know that Peeves would not be a problem unless you were like Fred and George. So I suspect that that's where the boys got, or where the Marauders got the idea for the Marauders map. But at the same time, that means how many times did Peeves, okay, when they were out the first time, before he understood, before he knew anything really about Harry and Ron and Hermione and whatever, he literally called them out. If you think of his response, it was, "I'm helping you." So he seemed to understand that they shouldn't be out of bed at night. And things like that. That could get you in a lot of trouble. And whatever. And he heard Hermione sitting there complaining and whatever. So at that point, maybe his choice didn't help them. I mean, in the end, they actually were benefited by what he did, because he realized what floor they were on, and maybe it was a calculated thing so they could find the floor, or find out about Fluffy and whatever else, and bring them together. But at the same time, I kind of don't think that's the case. I think it was a chance to pick on first years that were doing wrong. So it was acceptable, because he's going to pick on people, period. That's who he is. But I believe that in a way, as he got to know them, he realized their personality and everything else. And I believe there were many times when he normally would have picked on someone, had it been anyone but Harry, Ron, and Hermione out of bed. I wonder how much Draco came to despise Peeves, or how much Peeves picked on Draco. I'm going to be honest, because if you hear, there's a few times when Draco's frustrated with Peeves also, if I remember right. But at the same time, here's the other thing. The Slytherins had the Bloody Baron they could go to, and Peeves would listen to the Bloody Baron. So I would guess, personally, that at some point, the Bloody Baron basically told Peeves he had to leave Draco alone. But if you notice, none of the Slytherins that were, could boss Peeves around, per se. But Harry does, and the twins do, etc. So there's a different dynamic there. Oh yeah, we hear from Percy that the only person who can boss Peeves around is the Bloody Baron. So that's why I suspect that if the Slytherins had too much trouble with Peeves, they'd go to the Bloody Baron, tell him what was going on. And as long as they weren't causing problems for the house, the Bloody Baron would tell Peeves to leave him alone. We don't know exactly how long Peeves would listen, but we do hear that from Percy. Because Percy himself said to Peeves at the beginning of the first book, or in the first book, when they're headed to the houses, Peeves starts picking on the first years and really picks on Neville right after the feast where they're sorted. And Percy tells Peeves to leave him alone or he's going to go get the Bloody Baron. And then Peeves takes off, and Percy says the only one who can control Peeves is the Bloody Baron. So we do hear that, and that's why I suspect that if your students, per se, are being picked on, I could see standing up for them. And so that's why I say I suspect that Neville had a bit of a benefit there, or not Neville, Draco had a bit of a benefit there, is I suspect he would have, I don't know, because first of all, Peeves was never a person. We do know that. So, would he have been sorted, or is his personality more of a Gryffindor? Who knows? But what we do know is that somewhere along the way he did start listening to Harry, and we know he took orders from the twins. However, at the same time, He sure didn't listen to Percy. And we don't know how many of the other Gryffindors he didn't listen to. So I suspect more that what happened was Slytherins could get away with a few more things because of the Bloody Baron. I think that's how I would not be surprised to find out that's how Tom Riddle was able to get around as much as he was during his time there. Is that Peeves listened to the Bloody Baron for whatever reason. We never hear why Peeves will take orders from the Bloody Baron over anyone else, but we hear he will. I'm turning it off because there's a few up here I want to check. In many ways that's true, but at the same time, I do have some questions about some and I think that if you think about it, he was doing what he thought was best. And sometimes in life, we can disagree with those around us. And I think even more so it shows Percy's good qualities that he at least was willing to admit he was wrong. Because if we look at real life, how many people in a similar situation might have said that they were right and everyone else was wrong? Or used the excuse, he could have used the excuse that he had been put under a charm, or, the one that controls you. It would have been so easy for him to claim that. But he took full responsibility and apologized. And I think that in many ways shows that Percy was deceived. And I see so many times that happen in this world. And just as an example, and I don't want to get political, but who's right? Should Trump be impeached or should he not? Are Democrats right or Republicans? Is the liberal ideology the best ideology for this country? Or is it the Conservative Party that's the best ideology? Percy, or who was better, Trump or Hillary? Percy was faced with, and I think this is something that, I know this is something JKR said. And it was, one thing she tried to point out in her books is that many times right and wrong is not black and white. Percy looked at what was going on, and in his mind, the Order of the Phoenix they were lawbreakers. His family was on the wrong side, was breaking the law. And that, in his mind, that was horrible. You don't support Harry Potter because Voldemort hasn't come back. And then when Voldemort did come back, well, now all of a sudden, and he did not realize that the Ministry of Magic was being taken over by Voldemort's supporters. He honestly was blind to that. And for whatever reason. But he wasn't the only one. It's kind of like, not all Germans were bad. Even ones who maybe at first voted for Hitler. Because some of the things that Hitler was proposing sounded great. Well, they didn't know that all this other stuff was also going to happen. And by the time it started, then you're talking, do you stand up to him and lose your life? Or do you do what you can to stay on the right side of the law and try and change things? And I think Percy was the perfect example of that. Fred and George, everyone expected them to live kind of on the edge of society. And they found their own way to not necessarily outright break the law, but to defy the ministry. I would not be surprised, honestly, if in many ways George still defied the ministry to a certain extent, even after the ministry was in decent hands. I mean, even look at Hermione. Hermione, in many ways, she struggled with how do you change the status quo? How do you change something that is wrong? Do you outright break the law and change it? Or do you work within the law to change the law? At one point, she knitted caps and stuff to release the house elves, sure that what she was doing was the best and for the best. And then down the road, she realized that really what needed to change was that her way of changing things when she was younger had not been the best way. And rather than just outright releasing all the house elves who didn't want to be released, that a greater respect needed to be shown to them. So, yeah. I'll read what you said in a little bit. Now, if, on the other hand, I look at Umbridge, and this is part of the reason I bring it up. We have been told Umbridge never joined with Voldemort. However, she was almost worse than Voldemort. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm getting at, is I wonder how much Percy felt the same way with where he was at. And so he felt that he needed to, he felt what he was doing was best. And so did what he could to deal with that. Now, I totally agree with the neither were the best, neither were a great option. And that's almost when it's harder, is when you have to make a choice where you don't necessarily agree with any of them. And so you have to choose the best of the bad to vote to, that's hard. Because it's like, what do I do? What one is that? I can't remember what it's called. Ginger root. Yeah, that's part of it. So here's something to be aware of. Yes, maybe later on she became under the spell of the Horcrux. But when she was headmaster, she did not have that Horcrux. Because that Horcrux was still in, now I can't think of the house elf's name, but the house elf that would become Harry's. Anyway, that had been the Blacks. Creatures. The creatures still had that when she was headmaster. Still had the locket. And because it was near the end of 5, I believe, that Mundungus stole it from the Black household, and she was caught with it, and then she took it. So really, what happened was not due to the Horcrux. What happened at Hogwarts that truly showed how she was not due to the Horcrux. So I don't know about everyone that it touched. We learned from Harry that it's when you would wear it. Like, they could touch it for a short time and be okay. And if you think about it, Creature did not wear it. Creature had been the black house elf, so he had many of the same. He was loyal to the blacks for many years, and his family had been loyal. Many slaves, when they were freed, chose to stay with their owners and continue serving them. And they actually had, and nothing changed for them because they felt the same way. They believed in the way they had been raised, and they did not see wrong in it. And I believe it was that idea with Creature. And with many house elves. And that's why Hermione found that she had to go slow. Is the house elves had been raised with a certain set of belief systems. And they were not ready to give up those belief systems. And that's why, why we hear that it ended up all on Dobby when Hermione started leaving out the hats and the different articles of clothing. Why Dobby ended up being the one to have to clean the whole Gryffindor common room, because the house elves didn't want released. And so if you look at Creature, raised in that environment, the environment of the blacks, and I mean, you've got to remember, as they got old and were too old to serve, if they'd been a quote good house elf, they would have their head severed and then placed on a statue made of it to remind everyone else that they had been a good house elf. And so this is what Creature grew up with. And then Sirius hated the guy. He did not spend time. Well, first of all, Sirius ended up in Azkaban. No one knew where the house was or anything else. Regulus everyone else was dead. So Creature's there alone by himself for 11 years. Actually, 13 years. Completely alone by himself. And then you've got the fact that he was raised this way, and the only person he had to talk to was Sirius's mother's portrait. We do hear even Hermione felt that part of that isolation was what had a effect on Creature. And we know it would have an effect on a human. And so I'm not ready to say that what happened with Creature was due to the locket. Yeah, precisely. But he didn't see them as vile because that's the way he was raised. People who owned slaves. George Washington owned slaves. And didn't see anything necessarily wrong with it. So, yeah, and that's part of it. I think but we also find out that part of the reason he got right was Harry cared. Harry showed him a different way. And I wonder how much. So we do know JKR said that there were lessons in her books. And I wonder how much some of that was to say sometimes they need to be shown another way through love and caring to realize that they were wrong. And I think that's something this world still struggles with understanding. Many times it's force and anger and let's go to war and whatever else, rather than, and sometimes you have to. And I think she showed that sometimes it's bad enough you cannot sit back and not do anything. But sometimes just changing the leadership is not enough. Sometimes you have to do more like Hermione and work with what is there over time in order to improve life for everyone. And so, yeah. But at the same time, there is that idea of, can you ever know for sure who's right and who's wrong? How many slaves were slave drivers who would tell on other slaves as they tried to run and would literally beat slaves to inches of death or to death as an example to other slaves because they ran away or they didn't do what they needed to do or whatever. Precisely. And I think, so with Creature, we see that at first Creature had a certain belief system. And it was emphasized even, I hate to say this, but by Sirius. Sirius treated Creature the same way, even though he had a different belief system than his ancestors and his family. He still treated Creature the same way that his family had. And so Creature lived off the belief system he was raised with, and that part of that was that Sirius was the one in the wrong. So every time Sirius was mean, well, Sirius is in the wrong. It's okay to do this or that or the other. And do to achieve what the things I was raised as. And Harry at first did the same. But then Harry started to realize. And when they went back in book 7, both Hermione and Harry treated Creature differently. And I think that threw Creature for a loop. Really? And I think Constance is proof of that. Why would you want someone to reinstate something that killed so many people just so you can have a Yule Ball? Anyway. But it was how Harry and Hermione and Ron started to treat Creature when they were back there in book 7. And the fact, I think, also that even in book 5, Harry realized Creature wanted to do things. And so even when... So, yes, he sent Creature to Hogwarts so that Dobby could keep an eye on him. But in a way, it wasn't just so Dobby could keep an eye on him. Possibly in Creature's mind. Creature then had the chance to serve, which, for house elves, they were raised, that was their whole purpose in life. That's why Wheezy was so destroyed when she was let go. Is that her whole purpose in life was taken from her. And from what I understand, that happened with some of the slaves who when they were let go, their owners were like, well, bye. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. And all of a sudden, they didn't have the one thing that their whole life had been based on. And even today, people get in, and many males, their whole, their worth is based on how they provide for their family and on their job. And when they lose their job, all of a sudden there's nothing left. With mothers, many times, once their kids are grown, I hate to say it, but even my mother-in-law, okay, her kids are a lot older. And she has had to, she's always going down, has to take care of her grandkids, or else she feels worthless. Even if she doesn't agree with the reason she's taking care of the grandkids, she takes care of the grandkids because she needs to take care of the grandkids. So rather than make mom not go play, she doesn't agree with mom going to play. Mom should be home taking care of the kids. But rather than make mom stay home with the kids, she'll go take care of the grandkids and clean the house and do everything for the grandkids. And so, because that's where her worth lies. Precisely. So imagine how Creature felt for 13 years. And so when Harry told Creature to go work in the kitchens at Hogwarts, was he being mean, or was he acknowledging a need Creature had? And that's, I think, where Hermione realized that changes had to start in the law to allow, to slowly change the mindsets. And I think, like in your case, the one thing I have seen, okay, my mom had 8 kids. Her oldest grandchild was born when her youngest child, just before her youngest child turned 8. So she totally could have ended up the same. Yeah, precisely. So my mom totally could have ended up the same. Where the same as my mother-in-law, or more so. But about that time, they were getting low on money, and she started working outside of the house. She at first just did bundle drops so she could take the kids with her. And then it progressed to, at one point, my dad opened up a deli for my brother, a business for my brother, but my brother's wife wanted him to have the money of a business owner and the freedom to leave anytime he wanted and whatever, but only work 9 to 5. So she wanted to be able to call him anytime and have him run immediately. Drop everything and run to help her. And only work 9 to 5. Monday through Friday. And that's it. Well, obviously you cannot run a business that way. So eventually my brother had to tell my dad, I can't do this because of my wife. And my dad recognized and whatever. So my dad and mom took it over again. Well, that left my mom mostly running it. So it gave her something else to be productive and helpful. Now she works. He's in the the branch presidency of a branch around here. She's, I believe, in the Relief Society and works in the temple, and they still have the business. So that is one thing that I've realized, is that if your worth is all based on one thing, that can easily be taken from you. So you have to find, especially if it was based on one thing, and then that gets taken from you, you have to find another way to base your worth. So here's my thing. I don't think it even needs to be a I hope. I think you can find something. It's what I would do, because that could even be volunteering. It could be, honestly, I think it should be a combination of things. One, you are still a grandma, even if you don't live near, and a mother, even if you don't live near them. Being there for them if they call is important, if that makes sense. How they need you may change, but they still need you. And that's something to remember. Is that, yes, they may not need you in the same way they needed you a half a year ago even. But they still need you. You are still their mother/grandmother. And part of the way they need you is they need to realize how to determine their own worth. That's another thing that I want to bring out. Is your worth based just on, and I know your answer to this, but I'm trying to point it out to you. Is your worth based just on the fact that you're a mother and a grandmother, and what's going on, what was in your life before? Or is your worth based on the fact that you have a heaven, that God cares for you and Christ gave his life for you? And if Christ cared for you enough, felt you were good enough to give his life for you, then is it more important the fact that you can share that with other people, either helping them to realize their own worth through service, through time in church, help others realize what Christ gave to them. And that can happen in many different ways. You've already said you're a moderator on one of the Discord groups. That can be huge. Having been a moderator on Potter's Keys, being there to hear when people are struggling and to step in and provide a listening ear, honestly, and I just want to throw this out to you, but you may feel that you aren't doing very much, but even just my communications with you and Jen and Angel Goddess and whatever, this channel has been huge in my own self-worth in many ways. It has given me a way to create and to do something that makes me feel like even when I'm struggling the most, there's still something I can do. So the times before I had this channel, if I had had the times where I had when my back was having issues, and about all I could do was this channel, or a few weeks ago when I was sicker than sick and I could only do this channel a couple days a week, that I still could, it was something I could do those few days a week. Whereas a couple years before, I felt worthless because literally I could get my kids to school and home, and that was it. That was all the energy I had, anything else. And my husband has literally said, just that social interaction plus the creating has helped me become a better person. Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at, is, yes, it's a huge job. And you have a much bigger Discord server than I do, that you're an admin of. And you're there for those people, and you're helping those people, and it takes a lot of time and whatever. And I don't think you realize, in fact, I know many times people in those positions don't realize how important it is for the other people in that server. Without you in that position, or without, of a little while ago when they had the, what does Wizards Unite mean to you? Is Wizards Unite, is it more than just a game? Come on. There. That there's, It's more than just people. It's more than, yeah, it's the, and more than just a game. It's the, on how to, on what we really need to feel like we're worth something. And all of that is there in the wizarding community. And it's more common in the wizarding community. It's more than just a game. It's more than just a book. It is a change of heart and a change of mind. Okay. I actually need to go, but I hope that gives you some things to think about. So, I will talk to you later. Bye.